Imagine walking through a Jurassic shoreline, 180 million years ago. You peer into the water and spot something sleek, fast, and unmistakably familiar. It darts through the sea like a missile, surfacing briefly before diving again. At first glance, you'd think you were watching a dolphin, but you'd be wrong. What you were actually looking at is an ichthyosaur, a marine reptile that went extinct long before the first dolphin ever existed. And yet, the resemblance is uncanny. It looks like a dolphin. It swims like a dolphin. It even has the same coloration, dark on top, light on the bottom. So what's going on here? This isn't a one-time fluke. Nature does this all the time. Different animals, from completely different lineages, end up looking and behaving almost identically. Evolution keeps repeating itself. Why? The answer lies in one of evolution's most surprising and mysterious forces: convergent evolution. Convergent evolution is what happens when nature solves the same problem in the same way, over and over again using completely different parts. It's like giving 5 kids a box of random Lego pieces and asking them to build a spaceship. You'd expect totally different designs. But instead, they all come back with something shockingly similar. That's what nature keeps doing with life on Earth. Take dolphins and ichthyosaurs, one's a mammal, the other a reptile. They're separated by over 100 million years of evolutionary time, and yet they both evolved into streamlined aquatic predators with flippers, blowholes, and crescent-shaped tails. How? Because when you're designing a creature to move quickly through water, there are only so many shapes that work. The laws of physics, specifically fluid dynamics, force you toward that torpedo-like form. It's not about copying, it's about efficiency. It's about survival, and it's not just in the oceans. Look to the skies, and you'll see it again. In North America, tiny birds called hummingbirds hover in place while drinking nectar from flowers. Now cross the ocean to Europe or Asia, and you might spot a nearly identical creature hovering, sipping nectar, wings buzzing at high speed. But it's not a bird, it's a moth. The hummingbird hawk moth, to be precise. It looks like a hummingbird, moves like a hummingbird, and even feeds like one. But it's an insect. A creature with no bones, no feathers, and a totally different evolutionary history. Yet it evolved to do exactly what the hummingbird does, in exactly the same way. Even their eyes have converged. While insects and birds have entirely different optical systems, the hawk moth developed a visual spectrum nearly identical to a hummingbird's. Same problem. How to find flowers with the most nectar? Same solution. Nature didn't copy and paste. It rewrote the same paragraph in a different language. But one of the most dramatic examples comes from a little island off the coast of Africa, Madagascar. Picture a small spiky animal, rummaging through the leaves at night, eating insects, and curling into a ball when threatened. Looks like a hedgehog, right? Nope, it's a tenrec. And despite the eerie similarities, tenrecs aren't even close to hedgehogs on the evolutionary tree. In fact, they're more closely related to elephants and manatees than to any other small mammals. So why do they look and act so much like hedgehogs? Because being small and edible in a dangerous world forces nature into a corner. Evolution doesn't care how you get there, it just needs a solution. So the tenrec developed spines. It learned to curl into a ball. It became nocturnal and insectivorous. In other words, it became a hedgehog, without actually being one. And it didn't stop there. Madagascar's isolation meant that most common mammal types never made it to the island. So tenrecs diversified into everything. Hedgehog, shrew tenrecs, even otter-like tenrecs. Evolution used one blueprint to build an entire ecosystem, and somehow, it worked. Now jump to a different environment entirely. The treetops in every forest. Small animals face the same deadly challenge, getting from one tree to another without touching the ground, where predators roam. The solution? Don't climb down, glide. In Australia, that role is filled by sugar gliders, small marsupials that stretch a skin membrane between their limbs and soar from branch to branch. In North America, flying squirrels do the same thing, but they're placental mammals, totally unrelated. In Southeast Asia, colugos, or flying lemurs, take it even further, turning their entire body into one giant wing. And in Africa, scaly-tailed squirrels evolved spiky tails for better grip after landing. For continents, for completely different animals, one exact same idea. Glide like your life depends on it, because it does. Even underground, where movement is a brutal struggle against solid matter, nature reaches the same conclusion every time. Want to survive in the soil? Become a mole? In Europe, true moles dig tunnels with massive claws. In Africa, golden moles swim through sand with skulls that act like seismometers. And in Australia, marsupial moles, despite having pouches and being more closely related to kangaroos, look and act nearly the same. No eyes, no ears, cylindrical body, short, powerful limbs. Evolution said, the ground is hard, so here's your shovel. And just when you think nature can't possibly get any more repetitive, you meet the crabs. Or rather, everything pretending to be a crab. This phenomenon is so common, it has a name. Carcinization. Evolution's obsession with crabs is unmatched. Lobsters have become crabs. Hermit crabs have become crabs. Even squat lobsters and other crustaceans, completely unrelated to true crabs, evolve into crab-like shapes over and over again. Flat body, tucked tail, sidewalking legs. It's as if the universe decided that crab was the default crustacean form. But why? Because it's a near-perfect design for life in rough, coastal environments. The flattened body resists rolling in the surf. The sideways movement evades predators optimized for forward attack, and the claws. They're tools, weapons, and utensils all in one. It's not just a good body plan, it's the best body plan. So nature keeps returning to it. And here's the really wild part. It's not just shapes and limbs. Convergent evolution also affects senses and behavior. Dolphins and bats both use echolocation, despite evolving from totally different ancestors. Some birds and shrews do it too. Different parts, same outcome. Vision by sound. Even the eyes of humans, octopuses, and squid, though built entirely differently, have ended up with near-identical camera-like structures. The lens, the iris, the retina. Nature doesn't reinvent the wheel unless it has to. So what does this mean? Why does nature keep remaking the same creatures from scratch? The short answer? The rules don't change. Evolution is guided not just by random mutations, but by physical laws. Physics tells you the best way to fly. Fluid mechanics dictate the best shape to swim. Biochemistry limits how cells function. And environments, harsh deserts, dense forests, endless oceans offer the same challenges over and over again. So, despite the randomness of mutation, natural selection always filters for the same efficient solutions. Now think bigger. If the laws of physics and chemistry are universal, then this doesn't just apply to Earth. It means that evolution on another planet, say one with water, trees, or soil, might produce animals that look eerily familiar. Not because they share ancestry with Earth's creatures, but because the rules are the same. Alien dolphins, alien crabs, alien moles. All built differently, but shaped by the same forces. So, maybe nature isn't lazy. Maybe it's just practical. And maybe when life is given the same challenges, it finds the same answers over and over again. Because the truth is, nature doesn't care about novelty. It cares about survival. And if something works, it's going to keep working. Again, and again, and again.